check out Linda Nightingale or Bianca Swan. Under Bianca Swan, I write erotica.
Hi, talking with Jody Lynn Nye right now, a very well-known author. I have some questions for her, and after these questions, I'm going to leave her to whatever she'd like to say to the camera. This is Con-Jour 3.0 that we're at. Okay, first question. From the Wikipedia website, it said your first published piece of fiction was for Mayfair Games Airily, and I know you just corrected me a moment ago about this, Korean Mystery Magazine, and for their Rolaids game supplement line. It sounds very interesting. What was that about?
That was about putting together mysteries that were of a module for the role-play game, so that there were alternative actions and clues for you to solve each mystery individually. My mysteries were generally centered around the character Nick Velvet, who was a thief created by Edward D. Hawke, written in many, many stories over years, who never stole anything of value. In other words, you could ask him to steal a sugar packet or a burnt-out match or the top of a milk bottle, but never anything of value. And he always had a reason for that. He didn't want to take anything that was precious to somebody, but there was always a reason someone needed something unusual. And I found that to be a very interesting challenge.
Okay, next question. I've read a couple times you enjoy spoiling cats.
Oh, yes.
And before you became a full-time writer, one of your jobs was making costumes. Have you ever made costumes for your kitties?
Actually, I never made a costume for my cat, but I did dress up one of my cats in a doll's raincoat and a babushka and sent him through the kitchen to amuse our cleaning lady. She laughed so hard she had to sit down, but he was not very amused.
That sounds adorable, but I can imagine the cat's viewpoint. Okay, third question. You have a number of books coming out soon. One of them stated coming out later this month. View from the Emporium. Yes, sorry. That and your coming books, Myth, Fortunes, and Exiled. Is there anything you'd like to tell your fans about these books and people new to your work?
Sure. The Myth Fortunes novel is the, let me see, I think 17th in the series begun by Robert Asprin in 1978. After his 12th book, we started working together on collaborating on new myth adventures. And we wrote 7 books in the series before Robert passed away. Myth Fortunes was the last one. I was forced to finish the book alone. And it takes place on a desert planet where there's a genuine pyramid scheme going on. The myth adventures are full of terrible puns, in which everybody who is in the stories comes from a different dimension. You see, demon is short for dimensional traveler. So if you see someone who looks like a devil or an imp, they're probably from Deva or Imper, because that's where devils and imps come from. People who look like us, on the other hand, are from Clod, which makes us clods. So that's just part of the terrible puns that Bob worked into the series. Since then, we have brought in pixies and kobolds and all sorts of other creatures that come from interesting worlds. And it enables us to make comments about sort of the human condition. The follow-up novel, Myth Quoted, I just turned into Ace Books, and that should be out in December of 2011. Exiled is a series that's based upon an original series edited by my husband, Bill Fawcett, called Clan of the Claw. And Exiled is part of a shared world of novellas, taking the people, the Mrem, who are beings that were evolved as humans did from apes, except that these were evolved from cats. And what that does is to change the way that the culture grows. So instead of having singers, they have dancers, because cats communicate through movement more than through voice. The characters are trying to make their way safely from one point to another, and I'm writing a story with John Ringo in which we're trying to see one group make their way safely through hostile terrain. View from the Imperium, I'm very excited about. If you are familiar with P.G. Wodehouse, picture Jeeves and Wooster in space, because we have a feckless, foolish, but good-hearted young noble, who is Lord Thomas Kinago, and he has just become an ensign in the Imperium Navy, and he has been sent on his first mission. Well, he's got his own way of doing things. He certainly has his own way of thinking about the world. Face it, he's a silly person. But keeping him in line is Commander Parsons, who has all of the knowledge in the world and goes to and fro on silent feet and without any purpose that Thomas can see, but he keeps him out of trouble. And it was a lot of fun to do. I'm looking forward to seeing what people think. And the cover is just terrific. It was by David Mattingly. It comes out at the end of March of 2011.
Anything else you'd like to say?
Well, I'm very happy to be here at Con-Jour. It was very kind of the people to ask me to come and be their guest of honor. I am very honored. And everybody has been terrific. I'm having a great time. This is a good group.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Reed Levinson. I'm coming to you from Con-Jour in Houston. I work for Big Frog Custom T-shirts as well. We custom design printing of T-shirts and other garments. We also do mouse pads, coasters, koozies, tote bags, and other items as well. We do custom design work. You come in with an idea, bring your own artwork, and we can set it up and print your shirt in half an hour. No minimum. 24-hour delivery. We don't charge artwork fees. We don't charge setup fees. As I mentioned, custom design artwork like coaster, koozies,
So we go get
mouse
my
pads,
head, so I asked my
and
Gus.
your artwork is unlimited. There's a number of colors, artwork, gradients, basic pricing is $14.99 for a white t-shirt. That includes printing on the side. $15.99 for a color. Second size print, $45 more.
Oh,
Which costs
no, I still.
discounting it at Thanks.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry for the delay. We were just making sure the camera was set up because they wanted to record this wonderful event. And let me welcome you to Compairable Epsilon's Saturday evening performance. Now, for those of you that might have been here yesterday, we saw some of their acts that are a little bit more mundane. But right now, we'd like to take things up a notch. We're going to do some of the acts we did yesterday because they are our signature acts, and we do them in every show. But since this is the Saturday performance, and that's usually the day where a lot of people come out and they want to see something that they've never seen before, we're going to bring out a few acts that you guys probably have never seen before. In a sideshow, at a convention. Well, actually, you might have seen them at a party because that's where most of them belong. But let's start the show out correctly with an introduction. I am, of course, Professor Epsilon himself, and I'm going to be your guide through the weird, the wondrous world known as Compairable Epsilon, where the performers live by the motto of doing the extraordinary with the ordinary. And that's because most of the items we will be using in the show are ordinary objects you can probably find in your own home, or probably or perhaps even Walmart. And what these performers do is nothing less than extraordinary. Matter of fact, I'm going to start out the same way I did yesterday, because it's one of the acts we like to do. It's been performed for over 6,000 years of recorded history, and people still think that it's a fake, that it's a trick. But ladies and gentlemen, it's the act known as sword swallow. Now that where a performer comes out on the stage, he has a long sword and actually swallows it into the pits of their body. But as I said, there are a lot of people who fake this act. There are actually collapsible swords. I know of 3 that you can buy at